It was supposed to be just another ordinary night at the movies, but fate had other plans. I sat in the dimly lit theater, surrounded by an ocean of strangers whose eyes were glued to the massive screen ahead. The air buzzed with anticipation as the film reached its most suspenseful scene, a moment where even a pin drop could shatter the tension. And then it happened. A shrill ringtone pierced through the silence like a knife, jolting everyone out of their cinematic trance. Every head turned toward me, their glares sharp enough to cut glass. My phone, not my phone technically, was blaring obnoxiously from my pocket, and there was no escape from the collective wrath building around me. Before I could react, a theater employee appeared beside me, his face stern and unyielding. "Sir," he barked, his voice slicing through the murmurs of irritation. "You need to turn that off immediately." Panic surged through me as I fumbled with the device, trying to silence it while simultaneously denying responsibility. "It's not mine," I protested, though the lie felt flimsy even to my own ears. But instead of sympathy or understanding, my words only seemed to fuel the fire. The employee's patience evaporated before my eyes. "This is your final warning," he growled, grabbing my arm firmly. He began pulling me out of my seat, dragging me toward the exit as if I were some kind of criminal. The situation spiraled further out of control when the audience joined in, their whispers turning into outright jeers. Someone shouted, "Kick him out!" Another voice chimed in, "Unbelievable disrespect." Their voices echoed in my ears, each one amplifying my humiliation. As we passed row after row, I caught glimpses of shaking heads, rolled eyes, and crossed arms, all directed at me. It wasn't just embarrassment anymore. It was chaos. By the time I reached the aisle, sweat trickled down my forehead, and my heart pounded so loudly I feared the entire theater could hear it. This was more than a simple mistake. It felt like the beginning of something far darker, a twist of events I couldn't yet comprehend. As the heavy theater doors slammed shut behind me, I found myself in a dimly lit hallway that felt eerily disconnected from the chaos I had just left. My heart was still racing from the humiliation of being dragged out like some miscreant, but my focus shifted when I noticed her, a young woman standing near the far end of the corridor. She leaned against the cold brick wall, trembling visibly, her wide eyes darting around as if searching for an invisible predator. Her breathing came in shallow gasps, and every fiber of her body screamed fear. Something about her vulnerability struck me deeply. Not pity, exactly, but a mix of curiosity and instinctive concern. I hesitated for a moment before taking a cautious step toward her. "Hey," I called softly, raising one hand to signal I meant no harm. "Are you okay?" The question sounded absurd even to me. Clearly she wasn't, but it was all I could think to say. At first, she didn't respond. Her gaze remained fixed on something beyond me. Her lips parted slightly as though she wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. Then, without warning, a shadow flickered at the edge of my vision. It moved swiftly, emerging from the darkness like smoke coalescing into form. Both of us froze, our breaths hitching in unison. The figure loomed closer, its presence suffocating the already tense atmosphere. Was it real? A hallucination brought on by stress? Or worse, something deliberately stalking us? I instinctively stepped in front of the woman, shielding her with my body, though I knew I was hardly equipped to handle whatever this thing was. "Who's there?" I demanded, my voice cracking under the weight of uncertainty. There was no reply, only the faint echo of footsteps retreating into the shadows. For a brief second, relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. "We need to get out of here." the woman whispered urgently, clutching my arm with surprising strength. Her touch sent a jolt through me, grounding me back to reality. If we leave the building, I'll be safe. Her words carried an urgency that bordered on desperation, yet they offered little comfort. Safe from what? Who or what? Before I could press her for answers, she tugged me toward what appeared to be the main exit. But when we reached the door, hope crumbled into despair. The heavy metal frame refused to budge, no matter how hard I pushed or pulled. A quick inspection revealed the grim truth. Someone, or something, had locked it from the outside. Panic bubbled up inside me as I turned back to face her. "There's no way out," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Her expression morphed from terror to resignation, as though she'd expected this outcome all along. "This place," she began haltingly, wrapping her arms around herself as if to ward off an invisible chill. "It's not normal. People come here thinking it's just another theater. But once you're inside..." She trailed off, her eyes glazing over as memories, or perhaps nightmares, flooded her mind. Whatever she knew, it wasn't good. And now, thanks to my ill-timed blunder earlier, I was trapped alongside her. For a fleeting moment, I considered blaming myself. After all, hadn't my reckless use of the phone disrupted everything? Yet guilt gave way to determination. If we were stuck here together, then so be it. We'd have to rely on each other to survive whatever horrors awaited us. As we stood there, surrounded by oppressive silence punctuated only by distant echoes, I realized this wasn't just about escaping anymore. It was about uncovering the secrets of this cursed place and confronting whatever lay hidden within its depths. As we stood in the suffocating silence of that locked theater hallway, guilt began to gnaw at me like a relentless beast. It was one thing to have ruined my own night with an impulsive mistake, ignoring the rules and letting my phone disrupt everyone. But it was another entirely to drag someone else into this nightmare. The woman beside me wasn't just collateral damage. She was now trapped alongside me, her life seemingly hanging by a thread because of my carelessness. Her wide, fearful eyes darted between the door and the shadows around us, as if bracing for something far worse than being caught on the wrong side of a locked exit. "Look," I said finally, breaking the tense quiet. "I'm sorry about all this. None of this would have happened if I hadn't been so stupid." My voice cracked under the weight of remorse, but before she could respond, she let out a shaky sigh and turned to face me fully. For the first time since we'd met, there was clarity in her expression. Not anger or blame, but sadness laced with resolve. "You think you're the only one who's made mistakes?" she asked softly, her voice trembling but steady. "I married a rich man once. Everyone thought I was living the dream. A beautiful house, endless luxuries, everything money could buy." She paused, her gaze dropping to the floor as though reliving memories too painful to share. "But he didn't give me freedom. He gave me a gilded cage. Every move I made, every decision I tried to make, it had to go through him. Even my dreams of seeing the world were crushed under his control." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. Here I was, wallowing in self-pity over a minor infraction, while she carried scars from years of emotional imprisonment. "So why are you here?" I asked hesitantly, not wanting to pry but desperate to understand how we ended up in this bizarre situation together. "I ran," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "He doesn't know where I am. At least I hope he doesn't." Before she could elaborate further, a sound froze both of us mid-conversation. A heavy footstep echoing down the corridor. It wasn't hurried or uncertain, it was deliberate, calculated, each step resonating like a countdown to doom. Whoever, or whatever it was getting closer. The woman gasped, clutching my arm again, her nails digging into my skin. "It's him," she whispered, her voice filled with dread. "He found me." Panic surged through me, though I couldn't tell whether it was for her safety or my own survival instinct kicking in. "No," I said firmly, trying to mask my fear with determination. "We don't know that yet. Let's stay calm and figure this out." But even as I spoke, doubt crept into my mind. What did we really know about this place? Why were we locked inside? And most importantly, what or who was hunting us? Another step echoed, louder this time, accompanied by the faint creak of floorboards shifting under unseen weight. Shadows danced along the walls, morphing into shapes that seemed almost human but distorted, elongated, unnatural. The air grew colder, heavier, pressing against us like an invisible force. We backed away instinctively, our movements synchronized despite the chaos swirling around us. "I shouldn't have trusted anyone," she muttered bitterly, her grip tightening on my arm. "Not even you." Her words stung, but they weren't wrong. Trust felt like a luxury neither of us could afford anymore. Yet as terrifying as the moment was, there was also an unspoken connection forming between us, a fragile bond forged in desperation and mutual vulnerability. Whatever came next, we knew one thing for certain. We were no longer alone in this fight. As the oppressive weight of our predicament pressed down on us, she turned to me with a strange glimmer in her eyes, something between hope and resignation. For a moment, I thought she might cry, but instead she began to speak softly, almost dreamily. "Venice," she whispered, the words slipping out like a secret long held close. "It's always been my dream to go there, to walk along its canals, breathe in its history, feel the magic of it all." Her voice trembled as she continued. "They say that if a couple kisses while passing under the Bridge of Sighs, their love will last forever." I listened intently, captivated not just by her words, but by the way they seemed to transform her. In that fleeting instant, she wasn't the frightened woman trapped in this nightmare. She was someone else entirely, a dreamer yearning for freedom and beauty. She admitted that she had once married a wealthy man, believing he could make her dreams come true. Instead, he had locked her away, turning her aspirations into ashes. "I never thought I'd have the chance," she confessed, her voice cracking under the weight of unfulfilled longing. "But tonight, maybe imagining it is enough." Her vulnerability struck a chord deep within me. I realized how much we both needed something, anything, to hold on to in this suffocating darkness. So, against all logic, we allowed ourselves to drift away from the terror surrounding us and into the shimmering vision of Venice. We painted vivid pictures with our words, golden sunsets reflecting off rippling water, gondolas gliding silently through narrow canals, laughter echoing across ancient stone bridges. She spoke of tasting gelato on cobblestone streets, while I imagined standing beneath the stars, feeling alive for the first time in years. For those precious moments, fear receded, replaced by a fragile sense of hope. It felt surreal, like stealing fragments of light from an otherwise pitch-black void. But then, as abruptly as it had begun, reality came crashing back. A deafening boom shattered the silence, reverberating through the walls like thunder. The sound was unmistakable. The final door sealing shut, cutting off what little chance we had left at escape. We froze, staring at each other in stunned disbelief. Time seemed to slow as the gravity of our situation hit home. There would be no rescue, no miraculous reprieve. Whatever fate awaited us, it was closing in fast. Still clinging to the remnants of our shared fantasy, she reached out and took my hand, her touch trembling yet resolute. "Thank you," she murmured, her voice barely audible over the pounding in my chest, "for letting me dream, even if only for a moment." And just like that, the brief respite vanished, leaving behind only the cold, unyielding truth. Our time was running out, and the shadows were creeping closer. The air in the hallway grew heavier with each passing second, as though the very walls were conspiring to suffocate us. Then, from the shadows emerged a figure, a silhouette cloaked in darkness, its presence both menacing and otherworldly. Its voice cut through the silence like shards of glass, cold and devoid of mercy. "No one will hear your screams from here," it declared, every word dripping with malice. My heart sank into the pit of my stomach, and for a moment I thought I might collapse under the weight of sheer terror. The woman beside me let out an involuntary gasp, her body trembling violently. But then something remarkable happened. With a sudden surge of defiance that seemed almost superhuman, she straightened her posture, her eyes blazing with determination despite the fear etched across her face. "I won't be locked away again," she said firmly, her voice rising above the oppressive stillness. "Not by him, not by anyone." Her words hung in the air like a challenge thrown at fate itself. She turned to me, gripping my arm tightly, her nails digging into my skin, not out of panic this time, but out of resolve. "This isn't just about me anymore, it's about freedom, about love, and I'm not fighting alone." Her courage ignited a spark within me, forcing me to confront the paralyzing dread that had taken root in my chest. Until now, I had been little more than a passenger in this nightmare, dragged along by circumstances beyond my control. But seeing her stand tall, even in the face of such overwhelming odds, made me realize I couldn't cower any longer. If we were going down, we'd do so on our feet, not kneeling before whatever monstrosity awaited us. Summoning every ounce of bravery I possessed, I stepped forward, positioning myself between her and the looming threat. "If you want her," I said, my voice shaking but resolute, "you'll have to go through me first." The words felt absurdly heroic given the situation, yet they carried a truth I couldn't deny. I was done letting others pay the price for my mistakes. Whether it was guilt, instinct, or some newfound sense of purpose, I knew I couldn't abandon her. Not when she had shown me what it meant to fight for something greater than survival. The figure tilted its head slightly, studying us with an eerie curiosity. For a moment, there was only silence. No sound except the faint hum of tension vibrating through the corridor. Then, without warning, it lunged toward us, moving faster than anything human should. Instinct took over. I pushed the woman behind me, shielding her as best I could while bracing for impact. But instead of pain, all I felt was emptiness. The figure vanishing into thin air, leaving behind only a chilling laugh that echoed endlessly around us. We stood frozen, unsure whether to feel relief or prepare for another attack. Breathing heavily, the woman whispered, "It's not over, is it?" "No," I admitted, clutching her hand tightly, "but we've got each other. That has to count for something." And so, with nothing left to lose, we prepared to face whatever horrors lay ahead, together. As the final echoes of the chilling laughter faded into silence, The oppressive darkness that had consumed the theater seemed to lift, not because our nightmare was over, but because a new presence had entered the scene. From behind the curtains, a cheerful voice broke through the suffocating tension like sunlight piercing through storm clouds. "Hey there, friends," it chimed, warm and inviting, almost mockingly so after what we'd just endured. "We're so grateful for your support in helping us bring these incredible stories to life." The contrast between this upbeat tone and the harrowing events we'd survived was jarring, as if someone had abruptly switched from a horror film to a feel-good sitcom. The voice continued, unfazed by the lingering dread still clinging to my skin. "If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, leave a comment below, and share your thoughts with us. Your feedback means the world to us." My mind raced with disbelief. How could anyone expect me to focus on trivial actions like clicking or typing after everything I'd witnessed? Yet oddly enough, the simplicity of the request felt grounding. It reminded me that beyond this twisted tale, real people were watching, connecting, and finding meaning in our struggles. But then came the kicker, a feature they called Super Sense. The voice explained enthusiastically, "By using Super Sense, you can get a chance to be featured right here on our channel. Check out the guide below if you're unsure how to do it." A faint hum of optimism began to rise, underscored by an uplifting melody that swelled in the background. The music was bright, almost saccharine, creating a stark juxtaposition with the grim reality we'd just faced. For a moment, I wondered if this sudden shift was intentional, an ironic reminder that even in the darkest moments, hope could shine through. Despite the cheerful veneer, however, the weight of our ordeal lingered heavily in my chest. The woman beside me let out a shaky breath, her eyes darting toward the glowing screen where the message now appeared. "Do you think anyone will believe us?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the swelling soundtrack. Her question hung unanswered in the air, a haunting echo of uncertainty. Would viewers see this as mere entertainment, or would they recognize the raw desperation and courage woven into every frame? In those final seconds, I realized something profound. While our story might fade into pixels and sound bites for some, its essence, the fight for freedom, love, and survival, would resonate deeply with others. As the credits rolled and the vibrant tune reached its crescendo, I found myself clinging to that thought. Perhaps this wasn't just an ending. It was a beginning. A call to action for those who dared to dream beyond fear. Some people leave scars, others leave lessons. Burn and reborn stories that break you, then rebuild you.